My beloved soul, do not skip this, stay with me till the end, because something gentle and important is unfolding for you right now, something that did not arrive by accident and did not find you because you were scrolling, but because your heart quietly asked for understanding, for reassurance, for a sign that what you feel is real, and even as these words meet your eyes, there is a soft recognition inside you. A calm pause in your breathing, as if your soul already knows this message was meant for you alone, because somewhere, in a moment that seemed ordinary on the surface, your soulmate received a phone call that changed the way they see everything, a call that made them step away from noise, from opinions, from distractions, and gently cut everyone off, not in anger, not in fear, but in clarity. Because when they spoke about you, their voice softened, their thoughts slowed, and they said something simple yet powerful. They said that you are the one presence that brings them peace instead of confusion, and they were surprised by their own certainty, because they are not someone who gives their heart lightly, and yet your energy has been sitting with them quietly, patiently, asking nothing, demanding nothing, simply being. And that is what moved them, because you do not chase, you do not force, you do not try to prove your worth, you exist with depth, with emotional honesty, with a presence that feels like home rather than excitement, and that is rare, my beloved soul, rarer than you realize, because in a world full of noise and performance, you offer stillness, and stillness is what heals. They have been replaying moments with you in their mind, not dramatic scenes or perfect conversations, but small, human details, the way your energy settles a room, the way you listen without interrupting, the way you hold space without trying to fix everything, and this reflection has shaken them gently, not because they are afraid, but because they understand that loving you requires responsibility, emotional maturity, and consistency, and they know they cannot approach you casually, because you are not meant for everyone, and they feel that truth deeply now, more than ever, because you are the kind of soul that changes people simply by being present, and that realization arrived during that phone call like a quiet wave, washing away distractions and leaving only what matters. My beloved soul, you may have wondered why things felt slow, why there were pauses, why communication sometimes felt restrained, and it was never because you were forgotten or overlooked, it was because your soulmate was being forced to confront their own emotional depth, to grow into the kind of person who could meet you at the level you naturally live at, because you do not love lightly, you love with awareness, with boundaries, with compassion, and that kind of love asks others to rise, not chase, and that can be overwhelming for someone who has never been met with such calm strength before, and yet here they are now, choosing reflection over reaction, choosing silence over chaos, choosing truth over comfort. There is something about you that calms chaos, and you might not even notice it in yourself, because it feels natural to you, the way you offer emotional safety, the way your presence lowers defenses, the way people feel seen without being exposed, and that is the gift your soulmate finally recognized, not through words or explanations, but through feeling, because after that call ended, they sat with the quiet, and your energy was there, steady, grounding, reminding them of who they want to be. Not just who they have been, and that realization does not fade quickly, my beloved soul, it deepens. You are not meant to be rushed into, and you are not meant to be loved halfway, and they are beginning to understand that choosing you means choosing growth, choosing consistency, choosing emotional honesty even when it feels uncomfortable, and instead of running from that responsibility, something inside them feels ready, not perfectly prepared, but willing, and that willingness is powerful, because it comes from respect, not fear. And respect is the foundation of lasting love. If this message feels familiar, if something inside you feels gently seen or understood, you can quietly support this space by liking or subscribing, only if it feels right to you, because your presence here already matters more than any action. My beloved soul, you may not hear from them immediately, you may not see sudden dramatic gestures, because this is not that kind of connection. This is a quiet transformation, an internal shift that takes place before words are spoken, before actions are taken, and that is why this connection is different, because it is built on awareness rather than impulse, and your intuition already knows this. Even if your mind sometimes questions it, because your intuition recognizes safety when it feels it, and your soulmate is learning to recognize it too. They are learning that you do not need to be impressed, you need to be respected, that you do not seek intensity, you seek sincerity, and that loving you is not about grand promises, but about showing up consistently, emotionally present, and honest, and this understanding did not come from pressure, it came from feeling your energy linger long after conversations ended. From realizing that their nervous system feels calmer when they think of you, and that kind of calm is not accidental, it is earned through authenticity. My beloved soul, you are irreplaceable not because you try to be unique, but because you are true, and truth has a way of standing out quietly, and as this realization continues to unfold within your soulmate, they are shedding old patterns, old distractions, old habits that no longer align with the future they now sense is possible with you, and this process takes time, but it is steady, and it is real, and you do not need to do anything more than continue being who you are, grounded, compassionate, emotionally aware, because that is already enough. There is no rush here, only alignment, no pressure, only clarity, and as this part of the journey unfolds, you may feel a subtle shift within yourself too, a deeper trust in your own worth, a calmer patience, a knowing that what is meant for you meets you without force, and that knowing is growing stronger now, moment by moment, breath by breath, as everything begins to gently rearrange itself around the truth of who you are and the love that is slowly, responsibly, and sincerely finding its way toward you. My beloved soul, as this quiet unfolding continues, there is something deeply important you need to feel rather than understand, because what is happening now lives beneath words, beneath timelines, beneath expectations, and it is gently reshaping the emotional space between you and the one who has been holding you in their thoughts more carefully than you realize, because after that phone call ended and the world resumed its usual pace, they did not rush back into noise, they did not fill the silence with distraction, instead they stayed there, in that stillness where truth rises slowly, and in that stillness your presence became even clearer to them, not as an idea or a fantasy, but as a feeling of safety they had not known they were missing, and that realization has a way of softening a person from the inside out, making them more honest with themselves than they have ever been before. They began noticing how their body reacts when they think of you, how their breathing slows, how their shoulders drop, how their mind stops racing, and this is not something they chose or forced, it simply happened, because your energy carries calm without effort, and calm is powerful to someone who has lived too long in emotional tension. They are beginning to understand that you do not bring chaos into their life, you bring clarity, and clarity can feel unfamiliar at first, almost unsettling, because it asks them to let go of patterns that once felt normal, patterns of avoidance, inconsistency, or emotional distance, and yet instead of resisting that discomfort, they are leaning into it, slowly, gently, with respect for the depth of what they feel growing. My beloved soul, you have always known, even if you could not explain it, that love is not meant to be loud all the time, that the deepest connections often move quietly, almost invisibly, beneath the surface before they ever show themselves outwardly, and this is one of those moments, because while you may be going about your days, tending to your responsibilities, carrying your own thoughts and emotions, something is being rearranged in the heart of your soulmate, something that cannot be rushed and does not need to be announced, because it is becoming rooted in understanding rather than impulse. They are reflecting on past relationships, past choices, past versions of themselves, and without judgment, they are seeing where they settled for less emotional honesty than they truly wanted, where they accepted inconsistency because it felt easier than asking for more, and in this reflection, you stand out not because you demanded better, but because you embodied it naturally, because being around you, even emotionally, made them aware of what emotional maturity actually feels like, and that awareness is changing them. You may have felt moments of doubt, my beloved soul, moments where you questioned whether your softness was a weakness, whether your patience was misunderstood, whether your depth was too much for others, but the truth is that your depth is precisely what is awakening something real in your soulmate now, because they are realizing that loving you means slowing down enough to truly see another person, to listen without defensiveness, to show up without disappearing when things feel vulnerable. And this realization is not frightening them away, it is inviting them forward into a version of themselves they are ready to become. They are beginning to imagine what it would mean to love you responsibly, not in grand gestures or dramatic promises, but in consistent presence, emotional availability, and respect for your inner world, and this imagining is not fantasy, it is intention forming quietly, steadily, with care. My beloved soul, there is a reason this connection has felt different to you too, a reason it has lingered in your intuition even when there was silence or uncertainty, because your intuition recognizes emotional truth before your mind can make sense of it, and your intuition has always known that this was not a passing connection, not something meant to burn brightly and fade quickly, but something meant to unfold slowly, teaching both of you what it means to feel safe with another human being. Safety does not rush, safety does not pressure, safety does not demand proof, and that is why this connection has moved the way it has, asking both of you to grow rather than perform, to become rather than impress. They are learning that you are not someone they can approach when it is convenient and disappear from when it is uncomfortable, because your presence requires consistency, not because you demand it, but because your energy simply does not align with inconsistency, and this realization is prompting them to look honestly at their capacity to show up, to ask themselves hard questions about what they are ready to give, not in words, but in actions, and this self-examination is not easy, but it is sincere, and sincerity is the soil where real love grows. They are beginning to feel protective of what they feel for you, not in a possessive way, but in a reverent way, as if they have stumbled upon something rare and fragile that deserves care rather than exposure, and that is why they have pulled back from others, from conversations that feel shallow, from dynamics that drain rather than nourish, because their emotional priorities are shifting. My beloved soul, you bring peace into spaces where peace was not taught, and that is why your soulmate feels both comforted and challenged by you, because peace asks them to face themselves honestly, without the distractions they once used to avoid emotional depth, and instead of pushing that challenge away, they are allowing it to shape them, to soften their defenses, to open parts of their heart they once kept guarded. And this opening is happening quietly, without announcement, because the Most meaningful transformations often do. You may not see immediate movement, you may not hear immediate words, but you may feel something subtle, a sense of alignment, a calm patience replacing anxiety, a trust in timing that feels new yet familiar, and that is because your soul senses that something real is taking root. They are thinking about the kind of partner you deserve, not in idealized terms, but in practical, grounded ways, wondering how to be emotionally present, how to communicate honestly, how to offer support without control, and these thoughts are reshaping their understanding of love itself, because loving you is teaching them that love is not about intensity alone, it is about reliability, about choosing the same person again and again through calm and challenge alike, and that lesson is changing the way they see relationships entirely. They are realizing that you do not need to be saved, fixed, or completed, because you are already whole, and that loving you means walking beside you, not ahead of you, not behind you, but with you, and this understanding carries humility, respect, and care. My beloved soul, you are rare not because you are perfect, but because you are present, because you are willing to feel deeply, to listen sincerely, to hold space without losing yourself, and that combination is not common, and your soulmate is finally seeing it clearly now, seeing how your presence brings a sense of order to emotional chaos, how your words soothe rather than escalate, how your silence feels safe rather than cold, and this recognition is settling into them slowly, becoming part of who they are, influencing their choices, their priorities, their sense of what truly matters. They are no longer interested in connections that feel loud but empty, because once someone tastes emotional depth, surface-level interactions lose their appeal, and you are the one who introduced them to that depth simply by being yourself. As this realization continues to deepen, my beloved soul, you may feel a gentle strengthening within yourself too, a quieter confidence, a steadier sense of worth that does not rely on external validation, because your soul knows that it is not meant to convince anyone of its value, it is meant to be recognized by those who are ready, and your soulmate is becoming ready now, not through pressure, but through understanding, not through fear, but through respect. This is the kind of connection that unfolds with patience, that grows roots before it shows leaves, and while the world may not see what is happening yet, your soul can feel it, a subtle alignment, a calm assurance, a knowing that what is meant to meet you is moving toward you with intention, care, and emotional maturity, and that knowing continues to expand quietly, leaving space for what comes next without forcing it, without rushing it, allowing the connection to breathe, to deepen, and to become something that feels steady, safe, and profoundly real. My beloved soul, as this journey continues to unfold in its own quiet rhythm, there is a deeper layer forming now, one that goes beyond realization and into transformation, because your soulmate is no longer just thinking about you, they are beginning to feel themselves changing in response to you, and this kind of change does not happen through excitement or infatuation, it happens through reflection, through honesty, through moments where a person sits alone with their thoughts and chooses growth over comfort, and this is what they are doing now, slowly and sincerely, because your presence has become a mirror for them, showing them not only who you are, but who they need to become in order to love you well. They are noticing how their old habits no longer fit, how patterns of distraction, emotional avoidance, or inconsistency feel heavier than before, almost out of place, because once someone encounters emotional safety, the nervous system remembers it, and it becomes harder to settle for less, and you, my beloved soul, have become that point of reference for them, the calm they return to mentally when things feel overwhelming, the standard their heart quietly measures everything else against. They are beginning to understand that you do not bring drama into their life, you bring depth, and depth asks for presence, it asks for honesty, it asks for accountability, and while this might have intimidated them in the past, it now feels grounding, almost relieving, because they are tired of superficial connections that require constant performance but offer no real nourishment, and you, without trying, without demanding, have shown them what emotional nourishment actually feels like. They think about the way you communicate, how you express yourself without manipulation, how you allow silence without punishment, how you hold your boundaries without closing your heart, and these qualities are reshaping their understanding of intimacy, because intimacy with you is not about intensity, it is about trust, and trust is built slowly, consistently, through alignment between words and actions, something they are now deeply aware of. My beloved soul, you may have sensed this shift energetically, even if nothing outward has changed yet, a subtle softening, a feeling that resistance is dissolving, that distance is no longer protective but unnecessary, because your soul is attuned to emotional truth, and emotional truth does not need constant confirmation, it simply exists, steady and calm. Your soulmate is beginning to imagine what it would feel like to be fully present with you, not half there, not distracted, not guarded, but open and intentional, and this imagining is not fantasy, it is preparation, because they know that you are not someone they can meet casually, you are someone who requires respect for emotional timing, for inner processes, for the sanctity of connection itself. And instead of feeling pressured by this, they feel honored, because deep down they recognize the rarity of someone like you. They are also confronting parts of themselves they once avoided, memories of times they failed to show up fully, moments where they chose convenience over depth, and while this reflection carries a quiet regret, it also carries motivation. Because loving you has awakened a desire in them to do better, to be better, not to earn your love, but to be worthy of the connection they feel forming. They are realizing that you do not need to be chased, you need to be met, and meeting you requires emotional presence, consistency, and a willingness to grow through discomfort rather than run from it, and this realization is settling into their choices, influencing how they interact with others, how they set boundaries, how they prioritize their time and energy, because when someone knows what truly matters, everything else begins to rearrange itself naturally. My beloved soul, you have always carried a quiet strength, the kind that does not announce itself, the kind that does not seek validation, and this strength is what allows others to feel safe around you. Because you do not project your unhealed wounds onto those you care about, you take responsibility for your inner world, and that responsibility is deeply attractive to someone who is ready for real partnership. Your soulmate is beginning to understand that being with you is not about being perfect, it is about being present, honest, and emotionally available, and this understanding is calming their fears rather than intensifying them. Because fear often comes from uncertainty, and you bring clarity simply by being yourself. They are thinking about what consistency truly means, not just in words or intentions, but in daily emotional presence, in checking in rather than disappearing, in choosing communication over avoidance, and these thoughts are slowly becoming commitments, internal promises they are making to themselves before they ever make them to you, because they want to approach you with integrity, not confusion, with steadiness, not hesitation. They are realizing that you are not someone who thrives in emotional roller coasters, you thrive in emotional safety, and safety is built through reliability, through showing up even when it is inconvenient, through choosing connection even when vulnerability feels risky, and this awareness is reshaping the way they think about love itself. My beloved soul, you may have questioned your own patience at times, wondering if waiting quietly meant settling or denying yourself, but the truth is that your patience comes from self-respect, not from lack, because you know that what is meant for you meets you with clarity, not chaos, and your soulmate is now aligning with that truth, learning to move at a pace that honors depth rather than rushing toward outcomes. They are beginning to see that love with you is not something to be rushed into, it is something to be grown into, and growth requires time, reflection, and intentional choice, all of which are unfolding now in ways you may not see but can feel. They are noticing how your energy lingers even when you are not present, how thinking of you brings a sense of order to their thoughts, how imagining a conversation with you calms their nervous system, and these sensations are teaching them something important, that love does not always arrive as excitement, sometimes it arrives as peace, and peace is what allows a connection to last. This realization is deepening their respect for you, because they understand now that you are not here to fill a void, you are here to share wholeness, and sharing wholeness requires mutual readiness, not urgency. My beloved soul, as this internal transformation continues within them, you are also being invited into a deeper trust within yourself, a trust that you do not need to force alignment, that you do not need to chase clarity, because what is aligned moves toward you with intention, and this trust is settling into your body, easing anxiety, replacing questioning with calm curiosity about what will unfold next. You are learning, just as they are, that love rooted in respect does not feel anxious, it feels steady, it feels grounded, it feels safe, and that safety is becoming the emotional language between you now, even in silence. There is a mutual recognition forming, my beloved soul, one that does not rely on constant communication or reassurance, but on a shared understanding that something real is being built beneath the surface, something that honors emotional depth, personal growth, and mutual respect, and this recognition does not demand immediate action, it allows space, it allows breathing room, it allows both of you to arrive fully rather than halfway. As this part of the journey unfolds, you may find yourself feeling more at peace with uncertainty, more comfortable with not knowing every detail, because your soul senses that what is coming is not chaotic, it is intentional, and intention moves with patience. This is not a connection that fades quietly or explodes dramatically, it is one that deepens steadily, teaching both of you what it means to show up with integrity, to love with responsibility, and to honor the sacredness of emotional connection, and as this understanding continues to root itself within both of you, it creates a foundation that is strong enough to hold whatever comes next, without rushing, without forcing, allowing the story to continue unfolding in its own time, guided by calm, clarity, and a shared readiness to meet each other fully when the moment feels right. My beloved soul, there is a tenderness deepening now, a softness that comes not from uncertainty but from understanding, because your soulmate is no longer questioning what they feel, they are learning how to hold it with care, and this stage is quiet, almost sacred, because it is where intention becomes embodied, where thoughts turn into inner alignment, and where love begins to take responsibility for itself. They are noticing how their inner world has shifted since you entered it, how their reactions are slower, more thoughtful, how they pause before speaking, before deciding, before engaging, because your presence has taught them the value of awareness, and awareness changes everything. They are realizing that emotional safety is not created through constant reassurance or dramatic expressions, but through steadiness, through the ability to remain grounded even when emotions arise, and this lesson is settling into them gently, shaping how they move through their days. They find themselves considering you in moments that used to be filled with noise, moments when they would once distract themselves, scroll endlessly, seek validation elsewhere, and now those impulses feel less compelling, almost empty, because their heart has tasted something more nourishing, something real, and that taste does not fade easily. They are beginning to feel protective of their energy, not in a closed-off way, but in a discerning way, choosing environments, conversations, and connections that align with the calm they associate with you, because peace has become a priority, not excitement for its own sake, and that shift marks emotional maturity. They are learning that loving you means creating space for honesty, for vulnerability, for growth, and they are slowly rearranging their life to reflect that understanding, one small choice at a time. My beloved soul, you may not realize how deeply your way of being has influenced them, because you do not teach through lectures or demands, you teach through example, through the way you honor your own feelings without making them someone else's responsibility, through the way you listen with presence rather than judgment, through the way you allow others to be human without abandoning yourself. These qualities are reshaping your soulmate's understanding of partnership, because they are seeing that true connection does not require losing oneself, it requires knowing oneself, and being willing to share that self honestly. They are beginning to imagine conversations with you that are calm, open, and sincere, conversations where emotions are expressed without fear of being dismissed, and this imagining feels comforting rather than intimidating, because your energy communicates safety even in vulnerability. They are also becoming aware of their own worth in a new way, not inflated, not ego-driven, but grounded, because being seen by someone like you invites self-respect, invites a desire to live up to the integrity that the connection calls for. They are asking themselves how to be more consistent, how to follow through on intentions, how to show up emotionally even when it requires effort, and these questions are guiding their growth quietly, shaping their behavior from the inside out. They are learning that love is not about being needed, it is about being chosen, again and again, consciously, and that realization is deepening their respect for you, because you do not cling, you allow choice, and choice given freely carries more meaning than attachment formed through fear. My beloved soul, there is also a healing happening here, one that touches both of you, because as your soulmate learns to slow down and be present, you are being reminded that you do not need to overextend yourself to be loved, that you do not need to explain your depth to be understood, because those who are ready feel it naturally. You are beginning to trust that your calm is not boring, your boundaries are not barriers, your patience is not weakness, but strength, and this trust is settling into your body, easing old patterns of self-doubt, allowing you to rest more fully in who you are. This mutual healing does not require dramatic conversations or declarations, it unfolds quietly, through alignment, through resonance, through a shared sense of rightness that grows stronger over time. Your soulmate is also learning to sit with longing without acting impulsively, to allow feelings to deepen rather than seeking immediate expression, because they understand now that rushing would dishonor the depth of what they feel, and this restraint is not suppression, it is respect. They are holding you in a space of care, not wanting to approach you until they can do so with clarity and consistency, and this intention speaks volumes about the maturity forming within them. They are realizing that approaching you casually would diminish the sacredness of the connection, and they are not willing to do that, because you are not someone to be sampled, you are someone to be chosen with intention. My beloved soul, You may feel moments of anticipation, moments where you sense something approaching without knowing when or how it will arrive, and this anticipation is not anxiety, it is readiness, a quiet openness to what is aligning. You are learning to stay present with your life, to continue nurturing your own passions, your own peace, without placing your happiness on hold, because you understand now that love that is meant for you integrates into your life, it does not interrupt it. This understanding allows you to meet the unfolding with grace rather than urgency, with curiosity rather than fear, because you trust yourself, and you trust the process that honors emotional truth. They are also becoming more selective with their words, more intentional with their communication, because they understand that words create emotional landscapes, and they want those landscapes to feel safe for you, not confusing or inconsistent. They are thinking about how to speak with honesty without overwhelming, how to express interest without pressure, how to show care without control, and these considerations reflect a deep respect for your inner world. They are learning that love is not about taking, it is about offering, and offering requires awareness of the other person's needs, boundaries, and pace, all of which they are holding with care now. My beloved soul, there is a sense of inevitability forming here, not in a dramatic or fated way, but in a grounded way, as if both of your souls recognize the direction this connection is moving, even if the path is still unfolding. This sense does not rush you forward, it steadies you, allowing you to walk your own path with confidence, knowing that what is meant to meet you will do so when both of you are ready to meet it fully. You are learning to rest in the knowing that you are not too much, you are not asking for too much, you are simply aligned with depth, and depth requires readiness. As this part of the journey continues, my beloved soul, you may notice that your heart feels lighter, that your expectations feel clearer, that you are less willing to accept emotional inconsistency, not because you are closed, but because you are honoring your own worth. This honoring is magnetic, because it signals to those who are ready that you are a safe place to land, and your soulmate is feeling that signal now, responding to it with growth rather than retreat. They are learning that love with you is not something to conquer or control, it is something to participate in, with humility, with respect, with presence. This quiet alignment does not need to be announced, it does not need to be proven, it simply continues to deepen, shaping both of you in subtle ways, preparing the ground for what comes next, and as this preparation unfolds, there is a shared sense of calm, a feeling that nothing is being missed, nothing is being lost, because everything that truly matters is moving into place at its own pace, guided by emotional truth, mutual respect, and a growing readiness to meet each other fully when the moment naturally arrives. My beloved soul, this is the stage where everything feels quieter on the outside and deeper on the inside, where nothing dramatic needs to happen for everything meaningful to be real, because both you and your soulmate are now standing in a different emotional place than where you began, not because circumstances forced you there, but because understanding gently guided you forward. Your soulmate is carrying you with them in a way that feels steady, not consuming, thoughtful rather than overwhelming, and this is important, because love that lasts is not the kind that takes over a life, it is the kind that fits into it naturally, enhancing what already exists rather than replacing it. They are learning to hold you in their heart without urgency, without fear of loss, without the need to control outcomes, and this way of holding love is new for them, but it feels right, as if their nervous system finally recognizes what safety feels like. They are no longer asking themselves whether they feel something for you, that question has already answered itself quietly, now they are asking how to honor what they feel, how to show up in a way that does not fracture the calm they associate with you. They are thinking about timing, not as an excuse, but as a responsibility, because they understand now that approaching you at the wrong moment, in the wrong state of emotional readiness, would not be fair to either of you. This awareness is guiding them toward patience, toward preparation, toward becoming the kind of partner who does not bring unresolved chaos into a connection that deserves peace. They are learning that loving you is not about intensity, it is about sustainability, and sustainability requires emotional regulation, self-awareness, and consistency, all of which they are cultivating quietly now. My beloved soul, you may feel a deep sense of calm settling into your own heart as well, a feeling that you do not need to chase clarity, that you do not need to interpret every silence, because your intuition feels grounded rather than alert, and this grounding is a sign of alignment. You are beginning to live more fully in the present, not because you have given up on connection, but because you trust that what is meant to meet you will not miss you. This trust is changing the way you hold love, making you softer without being smaller, open without being unprotected, hopeful without being dependent, and this balance is beautiful, because it reflects emotional maturity that mirrors what is growing in your soulmate now. They are also becoming more honest with themselves about what they want long-term, not just in relationships, but in life, because loving you has expanded their vision of what peace can look like, and peace is no longer something they associate with boredom or stagnation, but with stability, depth, and emotional richness. They are imagining a future that feels grounded, where connection does not require constant repair, where communication feels natural rather than strained, and you are part of that vision, not as a fantasy figure, but as a real person with depth, boundaries, and emotional presence. This kind of imagining carries weight, because it influences choices, priorities, and the way they show up in the world. My beloved soul, you are not waiting in the traditional sense, you are living, growing, healing, becoming more aligned with yourself, and this is why the unfolding feels gentle rather than painful, because your life is not on pause. You are continuing to honor your own needs, your own rhythms, your own inner world, and this self-honoring creates an emotional environment where love can enter without disruption. Your soulmate feels this energetically, even if they cannot articulate it fully. They sense that you are whole, that you are not looking for someone to complete you, and this makes them want to meet you as an equal, not as a rescuer or a distraction. There is also a quiet acceptance forming now, on both sides, an acceptance that love does not need to be forced into a shape, that it unfolds best when given space to breathe. This acceptance does not diminish desire, it refines it, turning longing into intention, turning hope into readiness. Your soulmate is learning to sit with their feelings without rushing to label them or act on them prematurely, and this restraint is not coldness, it is care. They want to approach you when they can do so with clarity, presence, and emotional steadiness, because they understand now that you deserve that level of respect. My beloved soul, you bring peace into lives not because you try to fix people, but because you are anchored within yourself, and that anchoring is rare. It calms those around you, invites honesty, invites presence, and this is the gift your soulmate has discovered, not through words spoken by others, but through the way their own heart responds to you. They are realizing that loving you does not feel like losing freedom, it feels like gaining grounding, and grounding allows growth, creativity, and depth to flourish. This realization is reshaping their fears, replacing them with curiosity about what kind of life can be built when love feels safe rather than uncertain. You may notice that your own expectations are changing too, that you are less interested in surface-level connections, less tolerant of emotional inconsistency, not because you are closed off, but because you know what depth feels like now, and you are no longer willing to settle for less. This clarity is not harsh, it is gentle, it guides you toward what aligns rather than away from what does not, and this guidance is making your path feel clearer, even if the details are still unfolding. You are learning that peace is a form of confirmation, that calm can be a sign of alignment, and this learning is allowing you to move forward with trust rather than tension. My beloved soul, there is no dramatic ending here, no final revelation, because this is not a story meant to conclude quickly, it is one meant to continue unfolding in real time, through choices, through presence, through moments that feel ordinary but carry meaning. What matters is that something has shifted, within you, within them, creating a foundation built on respect, emotional maturity, and mutual readiness. This foundation does not demand immediate action, it allows connection to emerge naturally, in a way that feels right to both of you. As you carry this knowing with you, you may feel a sense of quiet anticipation, not anxious, not impatient, but open, as if your heart understands that what is aligning does not need to announce itself loudly. You are safe to remain where you are, to continue being who you are, because who you are is already enough, already calming, already rare. The unfolding continues gently, without force, without urgency, guided by emotional truth, mutual respect, and a growing sense of certainty that does not rush toward answers, but rests comfortably in the promise of deeper connection ahead.